Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from around the world. Welcome to Web3 Warriors, episode 56, featuring Philheal, the one and only multidisciplinary, creative, amazing illustrator, and really prolific creator of NFTs on the blockchain. Welcome, Phil. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. It's really an honor to be on this podcast and speaking with you about my art and what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Phil. It's an honor to have you here. So again, welcome everyone to Web3 Warriors. I am David Karoma, go by Chrome in the Metaverse. I'm your host. And as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking to Philheal. And on the broader topic for today's episode, we're looking at illustrations on the blockchain and really comic books maybe as a extension of illustrations and the potential to actually create comics on the blockchain and why that might be a lucrative avenue for talented illustrators such as Phil here. So with that, I'm just going to give a few points on what I've seen in the space and kind of the direction that I've seen some projects try to go when it comes to creating comic books and actually creating works of literature on the blockchain even more broadly. So we've seen it with a few of the kind of bigger name collections, Bored Apes. I think CryptoPunks got their own comics out there. Also, I think the Afrodroids did a pretty cool comic book that connected to their Afrodroid project as well, which I was hoping to see continue to evolve into kind of a bigger thing in the metaverse, and maybe they'll still do that. So we'll see. And then there's also more recently the Ranga collection, which claims to be all about kind of story building and creating this kind of fictional world with their NFT project. So very interesting there. So it's not brand new. It's not like it isn't being attempted or done. But I do think that there's a space still left to be filled when looking at the potential for a purely Web3 comic book creation, and some of the advantages that might come from that is that, of course, with all Web3, you get that straight to the community kind of distribution. You're also hearing directly from your community almost in real time, which can lead to a really cool kind of creation project or a prospect to create with your community. And you can also use Discord and the community base of collectors to actually build out the universe, as we're seeing with the Unioverse collection, which is more of a video game type of angle that they're taking, but they also have a lot of lore being built into it. And so they've created graphics, but they've allowed their community to help kind of define the narrative and define some of the different things that are happening within their kind of gaming universe that they're building. So it's very cool from that perspective as well, being able to get community involvement. And of course, we're just seeing that art in general is kind of leading the space, is leading the Web3 space, leading the NFT space. And so it's kind of a natural extension that comic books might find a home in the NFT space. And we've definitely heard from, even Marvel and DC, but they generally seem to be going the route of like big connections, like whether it's with Vive or Polygon or specific marketplaces that are able to push out some of their content as NFTs. But it's not like a purely, from the grassroots, building out a comic book and then selling it on the blockchain. So just something to think about. We'll probably get into a little bit with Phil here, but definitely want to talk about his artwork and the amazing NFT collections that he's made so far and what he plans to build into the future. So that's just a little bit of thoughts on my side as far as the comic books go. I want to give a shout out to anybody who's joining us at the live stream. We definitely do encourage any participation. Feel free to reach out with any questions, anything that sparks your interest. And the most thought-provoking question will be entered to get an NFT giveaway, which we do have a pretty extensive collection of NFTs with the Web3 Warriors here. And I also want to remind any of our listeners, if you haven't already, please do visit web3warriors.io, where you'll land in our corner of the metaverse with some of our NFTs are on display there, and you can sign the guest book there, and we'll be randomly choosing a winner for a wearable of the Avril 15 derivative, which is a really cool wearable that we've had created by Jagar, a very talented voxels creator. So do sign that guest book at web3warriors.io for your chance to win. And without further ado, let's jump over to Philheal. Thank you again for joining us, Phil. Maybe before we get into your NFTs and your projects and what you're working on, can you share just a little bit about where you're coming from and what led you to Web3? Welcome.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you once again. My name is Philip. I'm a Nigerian, I would say multidisciplinary, even though I'm currently focused on my illustrations. I've been drawing since I was a kid, back in Nigeria. That was a hobby for me. Even though I studied in the sciences, I was still more into art. Like you said, I love that you're talking about comics because I'm a big comic collector. Ever since back in Nigeria, I've been collecting comics. Whether it's we had this indigenous comic book. It was called Super Strikers, and it came out every month. And I remember it used to be sold at this fast food place, and I remember every month I used to go get a copy. From there, I started collecting Marvel comics. I'm not a DC fan actually, so I used
Nice.
to collect Marvel comics, Image comic. I was a big fan of Image comics, Spawn, Youngblood, and from there I kept on drawing, creating. Then I stumbled into manga. That was late junior high school to my senior high school. I stumbled into manga, and I just started, practicing. When you love something, you try to practice and create your own thing. And from there, I just started keep improving. Yeah, it used to be on and off because I was in school, I was studying, and I just used to, pass time. And when I go into college, I have a degree in human anatomy, the medical side. So I kept on, that kind of helped me in a way because, anatomy, have to draw, structures of the human body and that. So my ability to draw helped me, pass class and stuff.
Nice.
Then I remember in my final year, I was able to do a 30-page one shot for my characters. I was able to just do 30 pages because I was working on my final thesis at that time. But um, I did that. It was, good. I did that traditionally. Then I moved to the US. Then I discovered, because of my busy schedule with work and life, I had to move everything digital. So I switched to, I had a Wacom tablet. From there, I moved to an iPad, and that's what I used to create with all the time.
Nice.
My current art style is inspired by manga, majorly. I read a lot of manga. I actually even collect manga magazines. I
Yeah, I
think
think
I
I can
made
see
a
the inspiration a little bit in there. And honestly, I think I
yeah,
see the inspiration of that indigenous comic you're talking about as well.
yeah. So the most of my pieces are also inspired by African mythology, stories, legends. Growing up in Nigeria, I used to, I'm from the Igbo tribe, and I go to the village every December, and my grandmother, my father, my grandfather, they used to tell us stories about people, and that just blew up my imagination. And anytime I create, I try to reference my culture, where I'm from, stories from Africa, West Africa particularly. Yeah.
That's beautiful. No, it definitely resonates. So the stories from Africa generally, broadly, is kind of inspiring it, but it is fairly fictional, right? Or do you try to
Yeah.
mix kind of lore, like actual traditional lore, with works of fiction?
I do that. I tend to add like traditional lore with fictions, because I would say stories from Africa especially are like an untapped gold mine, because there are things you come across and your mind like, oh, what if I add this to a concept and create something out of it? That's what goes on with me every time. There are like pieces I've created just by watching a documentary. Um, there's this piece I called The Hyena Man, and it was just watching a documentary about real life men who had hyenas for pets. And I was like, oh, what if you could create a clan and they just ride hyenas and they live with this, and they have this whole bonding process with their hyenas. I just there was a time, there's this blog on Tumblr. Yeah, it's called Umpuruku. It's an Igbo. It basically focuses on the pre-colonial life of people in eastern Nigeria, the Igbo tribe. And I stumbled upon, this was last year. about the were leopards, and I was like, oh, what are this? What's this? And they saw that they were like warriors back in the day, because in the Igbo tribe, the leopards are like revered as the king of animals. So, and if you could kill one as a hunter, you had a lot of like respect and clout.
No doubt.
And they were warriors like who, if they ate part of the leopard, they had the ability to transform into one. And I was like, you could, create a story about maybe a warrior who's a were leopard, like this is his power, just how comic books come with like people and powers, So you can just, take a concept that existed and add it to a fictional character, and you then create there are a lot of possibilities with it.
There you go. I just brought up the one because I had just seen it on your Twitter feed with the man transforming into a leopard. So I just showing it on the feed for everyone. So you're very prolific with your shares on Twitter too. Maybe you can speak a little bit about that and how you've got a really amazing following, like 12,000 plus now on Twitter, and you seem to just kind of drip out art even if it's not on chain yet, right? It's not like you're just holding it back until it's an NFT and then you share it and tell people to go buy it. You seem to be much more kind of open with your art process, and you're just kind of sharing art for the sake of sharing it, and then you decide which ones you're going to put on the blockchain.
Can I give me one more, man? Yeah, it's just
no problem yet. All good. That's why we have post edits. And shout out to Lost Milk in the chat. Appreciate you dropping in. Said he's got to go, but Phil's newest artwork is crazy, and I agree. It is definitely crazy. So you got some love in the chat there, Phil. From Lost Milk was giving you some love there, saying your newest artwork is crazy.
Shout out to Lost Milk. They've been very supportive, especially, and really thank them for that. Nice. Twitter. I've been on Twitter for like, I'll call myself a Twitter OG. I've been on Twitter since 2011, but nice. My account was kind of small. I wasn't sharing my art because I would say Twitter also, like me growing on Twitter is also linked to me being on Web3. I came into Web3 in 2021, late 2020, 2021. Before I found out about Web3, I follow a lot of artists, Faith Love, Anthony Azekwo, Dirty Robots. You mentioned Renga. I'm a big fan of Dirty Robots. Nice. So I remember early February 2021, I was just, I got an iPad. I was trying to, start making money from my art. So I saw, tweets by Faith and Anthony about, them selling on super rare NFTs. And I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. So I opened an OpenSea account. I put a few works there. Nothing happened. So I was kind of like, nah, this is a scam or stuff like that. I've not been, like, since I've been drawing, I've not been like successful in trying to monetize my work. I only just share it. So I took a break. Then about between June, July, August, I was on Twitter. Then I started seeing spaces. I started like listening to some spaces, especially by Stones the Organic. I used to hop into spaces, and then I started learning like what Web3 was about. The NFT space and stuff like that. Nice. So I used that moment to just learn. Just listen, know what's in, what it's about, and again, this space moves fast. It moves so fast. Mm-hmm. So after, I started talking to people, started speaking on spaces, learning more, sharing about myself and my work. And from there, I just minted. At first, I started minting my works. I remember my first mint was an edition piece. It was on that account got hacked though. Well, it was a 10. Yeah. I feel like getting hacked is a rite of passage in this space. And also, a bad rite of passage.
Knock on wood. I've been lucky. I've narrowly escaped. The attempts have come my way, and there's been a couple times I almost clicked. I was like, oh no, can't do that.
This one was so good to be true, but it was one of my early works. It was so early, but I made it on the Wacom tab. Then when I got the iPad, and I like worked very well on it, and I made like a 10-piece editions.
Mm.
And I remember going to a space and just talking about it, and like that, it got sold. Like I remember I almost got sold out, only one piece left, and I was like, really? Because I've I'm not like pro. I didn't go to art school, so seeing people appreciate my work is kind of like, oh, I'm that good.
Yeah.
So that kept me in the space. I won't say this space is where you like sell out fast. There are periods of the bear market and all of that.
Mhm.
But the fact that I was able to connect with people with my art, just made me stay. So I kept on, working, kept on drawing, share my work, and people liked it. I had like 2K followers when I first came, and with me just sharing and stuff, people, hit me up in the DMs. People follow me. I mean, the growth has been so unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
But I'm
amazing.
grateful. I'm grateful. I've been able to connect with people, connect with you. Done a lot of things. I think last year I had my work on Times Square.
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was on
Congrats.
Times Square. I remember that. I remember that feeling of being in New York and just seeing my work, and I was like pointing like that's me, because I could never believe like in years of my work would be on Times Square. This year too has been amazing. Just like 3 months in, I got on Super Rare. I've done enough a drop on Nifty Gateway. I've just been it's just been a wild
It's
rush of things.
super
Yeah.
exciting. Congratulations on all that, and that's what we like to see. Continued momentum. I got your super rare piece up on the screen right now. Congrats on that sale. I saw it sold for 0.6
Yeah.
ETH not too long ago,
Yeah.
March 4th.
Yeah,
So that's awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this piece and the Ojuju saga?
Oh yeah, so I have two collections on I would say two full collections on the blockchain. The first one is on Foundation. It's called the DB and the Masquerade. That's my
Mm.
I'll say my OG collection. That is what I've been working on even before I got into NFTs. The DB and the Masquerade is basically I have to explain the term. The DBs are the shamans in you know Western Africa. The Dibia is the Igbo name, they are called Babalawo in the Yoruba tribe. So I remember having this concept like, what if they could summon masquerades? Masquerades are, like representatives of the spirits, the gods, they represent a lot of things. So I was like, oh, what if, they are in a battle and they could summon these masquerades to help them, fight, help them do stuff. So I've been creating this world for a while now where, there are different DBS from different tribes that control different elements and different powers. And I try to incorporate a lot of, things from West Africa. They are like nomadic horsemen. The hyena men I spoke about are part of that world. The were leopard is part of that world. And I've just been, working on this for about a couple years now, especially the character process, because I still think, I'm not yet fully fleshed out with it, because the plan I have for this is for it to be, an animated series, a comic book, a video game.
No
Those three
limits,
comic
man. No
books.
limits.
Yeah.
Honestly, this content can go in every direction all at once
Yes.
too. It's next
So
level, man. It's
true. So
amazing.
anytime like I create, like I feel like any piece that you see me drop are just drafts of what it could be. So I've been creating that. Like I would say, I'm currently sold out right now on Foundation,
Yeah,
but
they're beautiful.
it's
I'm just kind
still,
of scrolling through a few of them here.
yeah,
Really awesome.
it's still kind of the works you see minted are like not a fraction of what I have, because I'm kind of, I would say in quotes, I have this mint discipline because of how this space is. I just don't want to have works everywhere and I'm trying to like shield. No, I don't want to sell something to you like buy my work. I want you to connect with it. I want you to know more about it. That's why since the end of last year to this year. Anytime I'm minting something or dropping something, I, drop like a thread about what it's about. I, go into detail so that, you know what the vision I have, and I want you to see that vision before I like mint it. So when I got into super rare, I didn't want the masquerade to just move there. It's kind of confusing. I like my stuff being arranged and organized. So I was like, let me start something new. Then last year, by the end of last year, I had this down period. I was so down. It was, like things weren't working, and I couldn't draw the usual characters, the usual backgrounds that I used to draw. And I remember, I might, can you go to, I think, Nifty Gateway, or let me try and see if I can send you the link, because again, like all the stories are kind of tied to each other in a way. So I think I'll send you a link right now for.
Cool.
Yeah.
Were leopard. I never
So,
heard of a were leopard before. I love it.
yeah, I'll just send it to you DM right now on Twitter.
All right. And so Nifty Gateway, how do you feel about that platform in general? I think they seem to be a little bit more, we could say, fiat friendly.
Yeah. It's again, I want to shout out Charisma. His name, he goes by the name Charisma. His username is Stop Stare on Twitter. He's the one that curated me for that drop, and I think that's my first solo drop ever on Nifty Gateway.
Okay.
So shout out to him for that. It's a new, like a lot of people have that, like, oh, it's on fiat. So, but the drop was very successful in my terms, and I broke a couple records,
Nice.
personal records. So I'm so happy. Yeah, I just sent you the link to that on Twitter, or I can
I got it.
Okay.
Cranioscopy.
So yeah, cranioscopy. That's the drop. The pieces I made during that down period I was talking about. So I was really down. I couldn't draw, and most of the time I used to draw at work. I used to work the night shift. I don't work there anymore. So I couldn't draw. Like I kind of had art block in a way. So I remember I had this headache. The first piece was the cephalagia, was the first piece I made during that period. And I was just having a headache, like a big headache. So I started like drawing like things coming out of someone's head, and I got into the flow of drawing again. So I quickly worked on that piece, I fleshed it out, and I even had the name. Cephalagia it's just headache. It's just the medical term for a headache.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I made this last year, August. Then I looked at it. It was a representation of how I felt at that period, and I didn't feel so good, and I just kept on. Anytime I was down in that period again, I created the next piece. The next piece was Get Out of My Head, because I just wanted all the thoughts that I was having to just move out. So I created Get Out of My Head. Then during like the end of the year, when like things were coming down, and I had to like accept like things for what they were. I created Accepting My Demons, and I had no plans on minting any of them. Like that's why they're on Nifty Gateway, because I had no plans until Charisma hit me up like, oh, I want to curate you for a drop. Do you have anything new? I was like, oh yeah, I have these pieces I created. Maybe this is the right to put them on. So after seeing the reception people had about this, I think Accepting My Demon is I think my most liked piece on Instagram. I
Nice.
said, let me, explore the theme further of, having like, going through things and the problems you face. Let me use the masquerades, the ojuju, because the ojuju are like, the word ojuju is for like evil masquerades. And as a kid back in Nigeria, they used to scare us with it. They were like, oh, if you don't do this, the ojuju will get you, the ojuju will bite you. So I was like, oh, let me use the ojuju as, what we are, facing, like the problems we are facing. Let me use the ojuju to represent them.
Nice.
And then I created Escape early. I even created that before I got the acceptance mail on Super Rare. That's another story because yes, I created Escape to just flesh out the idea, and it was really it came out the way I wanted it to come out, and people liked it. Then once I got on Super Rare, I was like, oh, okay, let me use Super Rare just to build this new collection and just focus it so that if you want the Ujuju Saga, it's on Super Rare. If you want my DB and the Masquerade, it's on Foundation.
It's fascinating the way you've threaded these all together. The fact that they are so like related but different, so different projects and existing in different marketplaces, but having somewhat of a common thread through them all. It's really amazing. And the fact that you didn't go to school to learn this level of illustrative detail is really, really mind-boggling. So that's really impressive, man. And congratulations on all of the sales you're getting. And yeah, you can just see how this is going to take off. So I got to ask, what's the next step? Where are the Juju going? Where is this line of artwork kind of leading you right now?
So right now, I would say I have like 5 pieces ready for this. I've been working on it, but I've only shared one on Twitter. One more that's consumed. It's on Twitter. There are still like more. I want to like build them up. Then I now want to link it with the DB and the Masquerade in a way. I just have this plan for it where I'm trying to, now that we have like manifold, we have this burn mechanic. I have this idea of maybe making like 2 pieces from each collection. Then if you like burn, I was talking to somebody about even like a smart contract where you can just move it and transfer it to the collection and to now reveal a larger artwork bridging the 2 collections together. So that's the plan for it. But the Ojuju Saga is just a representation of people and going through different things. I kind of even have like a victory piece of you overcoming that problem, like you fighting the Ojuju itself. Yeah, but the DB and the Masquerade, I have a lot of characters. Like the Hyena Man, the Well Leopard. I did a previous piece on it like way back, but I've been looking at my old works and I've just been not satisfied again. I remember, the satisfaction I had back in the day, and I'm like, what was I thinking? So I'm
being too hard on yourself, man.
yeah, I'm giving them a redraw. Like I'm just redrawing a lot of my old works, and now that I have, the knowledge of different things such as composition, color theory, leading lines and stuff like that, I now know that I can create even more better representation of what I want to show.
Awesome. Well, I do. You touched on the manifold, and I definitely want to pick your brain about that. I was very happy to be able to buy a bunch of those Ojujus because you were putting them at a crazy low price. And I've noticed that on OpenSea, anybody who's listening definitely might want to go check out the Ojuju Saga editions because you can get one still right now. 0.001. It's crazy. That's what happens when you let those open editions go out and the degens get them, right? And then they go drop them on the floor for super cheap. But if anyone's wanting to collect and wants a piece of Philheal's amazing NFT collections, this would be one very easy entry at 0.001. So you mentioned the burn mechanics, right? And I'd be very curious to see if you know, maybe you put this Ojuju piece up as a burn piece, and you can always attach a price still, right? So it's not like you burn the piece and you get it for free. You can still have to pay, you know, 0.05 or whatever the case may be. So I guess first question, how do you feel about Manifold in general, and do you think it's a really powerful tool? And then the second question, do you plan to use those burn mechanics with this collection?
Manifold, shout out to Richard and Manifold, because in a way, you know, he has given power back to the creator. Because I remember I stopped minting works on OpenSea a long while ago, and I hadn't minted anywhere. I was still drawing, like, again, I was just consistently drawing and sharing my work, but I didn't mint because I was like, why will I be on a shared contract with OpenSea? And you saw how OpenSea was delisting people's works, you know, like Iranian artists and artists from different countries were just getting delisted. And I remember when Manifold came with, you know, like you can create your own contract, I was like, yeah, the game has changed. And I was like, okay, let me restart, or let me just move the DB and the Masquerade to Manifold, and I created my own contract with it. And I'm just so happy that, you know, you can even create like editions with that. And I believe, you know, Manifold is definitely the future for every creative, because anytime somebody asks me, oh, they want to start minting their works, I just say, just have your own contract, you know, because you even personalize it, the name, the token number, the AC art, you know, you can personalize that to what you want. And, you know, the Ojuju saga too, I remember when I got on Super Rare, I was like, I won't use their contract, you know, so I had to create a contract for it. It took like 3 weeks for it to get indexed into Super Rare, but I was like, it's worth the wait as long as it's on my own contract, you know, I own it, you know. Yeah.
So even that the escape piece on Super Rare, you were able to mint through your own Manifold contract?
Yeah, it's a Manifold contract.
Nice. Yeah. And for any listeners out there, that's manifold.xyz if you want to check it out. As Phil was just mentioning, you know, that's how you're going to be able to actually custom mint your own smart contract. And it does give you a lot of versatility around having an open edition, having a timed edition where it's only open for a certain amount of hours or days, and also having these new burn mechanics. So if you want to have a token that you kind of release to the community, maybe at a super accessible price, like what Phil has done with this really amazing Ojuju piece, and then being able to actually take that and say, well, if you collected that, now you're the only people that have access to this next token. If you burn the token you collected, you'll be able to purchase this token. So it's a very cool mechanic that is really empowering creators, and a lot of different creators are using it to really build up their floor price as well, right? Because people at first think, oh, well, that's just a cheap NFT, but then they realize, oh, that cheap NFT gets me access to this next new super limited edition NFT, so maybe it is worth investing in, and then burning and getting the next one, you know? So yeah, Phil, how do you feel about that? Or is that the direction you're thinking of going?
Yeah, I don't have any plan for a burn now. Again, you know, I know how like the market moves. You have to like catch on to the next big thing. But I've seen a lot of creators that, you know, once they did the open editions, you know, like a lot of DJs were on their necks about, oh, burn, you know. And the pressure, I don't want that pressure on me. You know, a lot of artists were getting called out, you know, being like, they say you're like milking money and stuff. Even the open edition I did was actually free. You know, I did a free.
Oh, it was free with gas. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, to celebrate. I did this to just celebrate getting on Super Rare because, short story, I applied 6 times every month. I used to apply to send an application every month.
Well, kudos to you for the dedication, man. I know a lot of people just get frustrated and be like, screw you, Super Rare. You don't think I'm good enough?
I'll give them a props because it kind of helped with my consistency with the growth, because I was like, oh, if maybe this piece didn't get me, and then I have to like switch up some things. I have to add more details. You know, I have to learn this and learn that. So it helped with my consistency. It helped with, you know, getting my skill up, you know, and I saw it as a challenge. You know, I love challenges. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I'm definitely going to try and like get their attention. So once I was able to do that, I was like, oh, I need to celebrate this with something. And I kind of had the idea from there's this artist called Osborne. He does a 3D works. And I remember when he got super rare, he minted his announcement stuff or announcement art, but that was on Tezos. Then I was like, once Manifold came out with, free open editions on his smart contract, like, okay, that's even better. I can do it on ETH. So I made it free for just 2 days, and the mints, I think I had like 1,000 mints. I was like,
yeah, there's a lot of them.
I know, yeah, a lot of people were like, I should have sold. I was like, no, I just, it's a celebration piece. I wasn't expecting the amount of mints.
Yeah,
but I do have a plan for it. But I want it to tie to an in real world thing. I don't want it to just be you burn art or you get art. I want like it's like tied to something. Maybe I think I have like a new job with like a company, so I'm trying to think if I could even tie that to the job or something.
interesting.
Just in case. But yeah, just I allowed you were able to like claim 6. So I think I have plans for it, but I want it to be tied to something physical or maybe even a print, because the initial plan, low-key, was to give people prints. But once I saw 1,000, like 200, I was like, I may not be able to do that again. So, but I do have plans for it, but not just like right now. I don't want it to be a burn. It could be a burn that will give you like a ticket to something. I have like a whole different idea for what is this. And again, this wouldn't be possible without Manifold, because I have a lot of friends who, you can see their rise attached to what Manifold did. We have Terrell doing crazy things now, and I remember, when he did his Burn to Die, that was insane. And from there, he's just been, doing big things, Sotheby's and all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's next level. I think it's a lot of opportunities, and you have that versatile option. You don't necessarily need to do the burn for more art. You could do a burn for a physical item, or you can just do some other phygital connection where you connect that digital NFT to a physical piece in some way. But all right, we'll stay tuned and see where that goes. I definitely wanted to ask you about this NFT called the Head of State, which was the first NFT that I ever saw that included Fela Kuti, who I'm a big fan of, huge fan. It's Bob Marley and then Fela for me. They're just like royalty. And it was really cool. So it's a picture of a zombie with Fela with his trumpet just slicing the head off a zombie. It's pretty badass. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I know you mentioned that it was kind of one of your earlier pieces. So yeah, what's the inspiration behind Head of State? And I'd love to hear any thoughts about it.
So I just I created this piece when I first got an iPad. I was just testing it out, because this is my first time like drawing on a screen tablet. So I just started, I had this idea because I remember listening to Zombie. I was like, oh, would it be cool if, Fela was fighting zombies, and, and the zombies were like the military head of states was like that were on him back in the day. So I created, this is the second version, because the first version didn't have the background. It was just red.
Oh.
Then the second, when I just got into the NFT space and I was doing stuff, I was like, oh, let me rework this piece, because I can add the background, the sun and the clouds, so I was just working on it. I never had plans to even mint it, but
that's amazing.
People liked it. But when I created the first version, I now had this idea to even like make a short animation. So I still have the files. I think I posted just one, and the animation was sort of, Fela is working, is like just walking in this desert, and the next thing he's being attacked by the zombies, and he like has to like defeat them.
Nice.
So that was just a way for me to also learn how to animate, because I animate also. So I was trying to create this short. I'm not yet done. It's because I was working with a small iPad back in the day, and it's not. I would advise anybody to try and animate with it. So so this piece, I was like, I remember I was like, oh, I should mint it. But I just, again, I'm not a big fan of just minting work ASAP like that, because sometimes I might spot mistakes. Sometimes I might not be even satisfied with minting it. So when I did the second version, I was like, okay, sure, let me mint it. And I put it up, and I remember the first person, I think was Taylor WTF that
Mm-hmm.
first got it, then Nissan, and like a lot of people started collecting it.
Nice.
And you also collected, which I'm really appreciative
Yeah.
of. And people DMing me, even like Nigerians that are in Web3 were like, oh, I love this piece because of the fella and stuff like that. And I remember the last piece I did a giveaway for the last piece, and I just gave it to somebody or one of my friends.
Nice.
But yeah, this is just one of like a few pieces outside my main story pieces that I just mint sometimes. I think the other ones I minted were for either contests or, I give my one-of-one collectors a gift like every end of the year. So I just do that. I think this
Nice.
year it will be on Manifold too. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I gotta say that background definitely made it pop too, like the way that the sun kind of
Yeah.
shines through his cape and stuff. It's just really cool. How you did the lighting.
Thanks for spotting that. I think this is also one of the pieces that I think helped me advance in the way I create my work, especially the lighting. Because
Mm,
again, I believe one of the things that make my work pop is the lighting. So I
definitely.
tend to, yeah, this was one of the works that just set the tone for me to explore how to make the lighting enhance my work further.
That's amazing. The fact that you're self-taught is just really next level, man. Really impressive. And you mentioned the animation option. I was going to ask you because looking at the Dibia and the Masquerade, you've got one or two, three of them animated.
Three,
And
three.
what makes, yeah, so what kind of defines whether you're going to animate a piece or not? It definitely makes a little bit of a difference, right? And they always seem to take
Yeah.
advantage of the lighting. I really like the one with the piece one with the butterfly flying by, and it's always subtle, So I love that you don't really take the animation to like any extreme place. It always seems to be just a
Yeah.
little subtle touch. But yeah, what kind of defines whether or not you animate a piece?
It just it felt I need to, because again, used to work on a small iPad. I just got a new one recently, a bigger one.
Nice.
But because of that, and again, I create most of the works I've created up to now were at my job. I used to work the night shift, so
No
at
doubt.
night when
That's
people,
amazing, man.
yeah,
That's awesome. That's what I like to hear,
yeah.
Burning that midnight
So
oil.
the piece was actually the first one that I animated, and I created this because I just got a new laptop then. So I was like, let me try and just create something like more visually, pleasing, because I don't want it to be all, illustrations all the time. So I created, this is just a drawing. The lady and the statues are just the drawings. Then the butterfly and the light passing through are just all animated. I remember I just animated each of them. Then I started learning about After Effects. Then I used After Effects to just make things work. So
Yeah.
I think this is a practice piece, because I have two that I don't plan on minting. I don't know. I have one called the Desert Pass. I have the Gateway, the Desert Gateway. I have one which is a collaboration with Kodak LDNs, an animator too. It's called Oduduwa Falls. I think you can see that on my Twitter. Oduduwa Falls. He helped me. He's always a great animator. He helped me animate the waterfall. So I was just exploring animations, and again, because I was also applying to, I stopped that for a while because I was applying to Super, so I had to like just try to make my animations reach a higher level. Then with that, I don't think you can find that now. You can just search. Okay, you're on PC.
I was just looking
If
at that
you're on
picture. It was real nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is the second piece for the Ujuju Saga. It's called the Consumed.
Nice.
Yeah. So I just started, I just started focusing on my illustrations just to like get the level to where I want it to be. Then now bring that to other forms, be it animation, be it even 3D. I know I did 3D for a while. If you check, you can check my foundation was the first
Yeah, I was
PC I
going to ask
minted
you
with.
about those few
Yeah,
3D pieces
3D.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So just expanding that skill set, and it definitely makes a big difference. Like those little light orbs and those butterflies, they look like they're straight out of Disney, man. Like next level, man.
Thank you.
Really, really cool. So yeah, explain the 3D side of things. So yeah, you're definitely not limiting yourself as far as art forms, right? So you do have a
Yeah.
3D option or 3D works that you created with the little light bulb guy. Where are those? What
Yeah.
inspired those
His name is
pieces? The energy pieces. Here they are. This guy
uh
listed it for 12
his name is
Ethereum.
Daliso. Shout out to Daliso.
That's what's up.
His name is Mr. No Idea. His name is Mr. No Idea, and I I remember when this was like way back, because most of my works are again storytelling, works. But when I try to create something and insert myself into it, I tend to use Mr. No Idea because I think a lot. I'm always like in thought, but just like thinking about different things. And I remember when I was trying to create, I'll say self-portrait, I was like, let me just create this guy with the light bulb head, but with the Mickey Mouse body.
Nice.
In a way, I was trying to we all know the artist cause, he ripped off that stuff. So me too, I was like, yeah, let me just rip that off from cause too.
I
So I
didn't
gave
see
him
the Mickey Mouse
the
body until you said it. Now that you mention it, I can see it.
yeah, I just switched up the color and like I gave him like he never ties his shoelaces. So I remember when I also got an iPad, he was the first person I started drawing. I think I even have a collection on objects with him called what's the collection? I've forgotten the name, but I have a collection of illustrations with him. So anytime I think I just do it as an introductory piece because anytime I enter a new like blockchain or anything, I first put Mr. No Idea piece. So even my first Tezos works were Mr. No Idea, just like, hey, this is Phil,
Like, I'm here.
this is I'm here. So when I started exploring 3D with Blender, my first thing was, oh, let me create a Mr. No Idea piece just to know more about 3D. I've created other 3D works with like human beings and stuff like that, but this one was just me, starting from the basic cube, meshing and creating a character out of just that cube. Then
Wow.
from there, I went to animation and I created this last piece called I Have the Power. And I did the rigging. I remember I had a friend of mine just help me with the sound. Then I had another friend do the vocal. So everything
Nice.
was just like made, and I brought everything back. I do plan on going back to 3D, but I want to start maybe my characters in the Damien and the Masquerade. I want to like sculpt them from the basic. I started learning ZBrush, so I want to like sculpt them out and just create them from scratch. I know that a lot of people do like kit bashing where you just get a lot of like assets and put them. I'm a fan of that, but I tend to the joy of creating something from scratch and bringing out your idea, just is what gets me going. That's why like I
No
took a
doubt.
pause from 3D and I believe I'll be back maybe late ending this year. I won't give a date, but
That's
I
really
just want to
cool though. You
create.
plan to bring
Yeah.
Dibia and the Masquerade into 3D?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was trying to like get a collaboration with some artists, but again, everyone is busy in this space, and so I just feel like when I'm ready to like do it, I'll sit back and do stuff. I don't like being rushed. I don't like rushing things.
That's
Um,
that's
if I
nice.
rush something, it's not then I won't like it.
Yeah.
So that's why even like when I mint stuff, I don't mint something that I just created. People do it, but me, I, look at that piece from time to time. I'm like, oh, did I get this right? You know, I can go back and change a couple things. Then when I know it's ready, then I'll put it.
Well, your striving for perfection definitely comes through, I will say.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And kudos to you. So you did mention the Tezos. I noticed that you had some Tezos pieces. I definitely am proud to collect one or two. I think I collected Ike and the Alchemy of Nature. But you've got a really cool assortment there. So maybe before we get into what you have on Tezos, what do you think about the whole Tezos versus Ethereum situation? Are you open to Solana as well? Or how do you feel about just kind of being cross chain or blockchain agnostic, as Low Sleazy would say?
I won't lie, I don't believe in like blockchain supremacy, because to be honest, most of the amazing works I've seen were on Tezos. Actually, I've been a Tezos maxi even before, you know, the boom. I remember Hiket Knock. I used to collect on Hiket Knock. I used to collect on Callum Mint.
No doubt.
You know, I've been a big Tezos maxi before I out. Tezos was the only way for me to collect art back in the day. And I remember, you know, back I used to just like save, you know, like put $50, then I'll just go on a collecting spree.
Nice.
And and it's good to even see like Tez native artists, you know, coming to eat and being like super successful. We can see the likes of Rare. We can see the likes of I don't think Bats. No. There's this artist, Lucre. Lucre was also, you know, was Tez native before he came to eat, and he's doing amazing.
Yeah.
So
Bongdo as well. I don't know if you're familiar with Bongdo. He's killing it right now.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, he gave me a follow last week. I'm so super amazing. I've been, you know, and you see like the amount of, and again, you know, people are like the price point, but I'm not like, it's not about the price point. It's about the quality of art, because the art you see on Tez is just so amazing that you just have to like, even got me into generative art. I've collected a lot of generative art on FX Hash. I used to make tweets that, you know, if I take a stroll on FX Hash, I'm going to go broke because of like the quality of art you see. Yeah. The quality of art you see there. And I tend to use Tez just for like my experimental pieces. Like you can see some AI works, you know, when I started experimenting with AI, I remember creating like a tarot, African tarot cards with AI, and I did that on Tez. I published that on Tez. You know, anytime, even like my pixel art, the Downfall Dreams, the Keke Dreams, these are all pixel art of public transportation back in Nigeria. I created pixel animations with them, just put it on Tez. You know, I don't even like list them for like insane prices. I only have one piece for like a high price. I just want people to just collect it, have fun with it. You can blow it up, you know, just I see Tez as a fun place for art, you know, just bringing the fun. Because, you know, on Ethereum, everybody's serious, you know, what's your floor price? What's your all-time high? This and that. But on Tez, you know, you just tend to like have fun.
I like that.
This piece, EK, this piece, EK, was a piece I made during a space. I was just on the space and I was drawing, and I just made this piece, and it was just sitting in my file. I was like, okay, let me bring my illustrations to Tez, because I never had like my DB and the Masquerade style of illustrations on Tez. And this was the first one I did. It's actually a redraw of a very old piece I made using my Wacom tab, and I was trying to make an Igbo samurai. So you see, like he's wearing the Ohafia hat. That's like an Igbo fashion cap with the Igbo dressing, just with a samurai. So I just made a redraw of him, and for fun, I just put it on Tez. Then I remember creating like a couple animations. That's the Oracle, and the Oracle was a study of an artist that I love, Victor Mosquera. He has this illustrations that I made. So I just did a brief study of his work, then I added the music and just the movement on it.
That's beautiful.
Alchemy of Nature was also a study. Yeah, thank you. Alchemy of Nature is also a study of Mobius. There's the French illustrator Mobius. I like the way he does his landscapes. I was just picking his style and doing it, and I created those back in the day.
That's
Then I
awesome.
just said, oh, let me just put them on test for people to just collect and have fun with it.
Yeah, I like the music choices behind them too. They really set the scene. Like the other one had the drums, and then the Alchemy of Nature's just got like that ascension sound, you know. And the peacock feathers too. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So how often do you kind of pull from actual artists when it comes to your inspirations? Is that something you do often? Like you mentioned that French artist.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to just go on like an exploration and try to maybe elements from them. Maybe it might be the fashion style, maybe it might be the way they do their lines. I'm a big fan of Dirty Robots, Ranga. I tell people that I got into Ranga before Ranga was Ranga because the way Ranga dropped, he first dropped this the Art of Seasons, and it was just like a collection of images he did. And I remember I was like, oh, the floor was at 0.1. I was like, let me just get this because there's no way you can get like a piece from Dirty Robots and eat like his super rare. It goes for like 15, 13 eat.
Wow.
And when I got that, then we saw the announcement like, oh, if you have the Art of Seasons, you can get Renga. I was like, ooh, okay.
Nice.
So, but I've been a big fan of him even before. Like he was part of the reason I also got into NFTs.
Awesome.
And
so you were able to get a Renga? You got one of those bad boys?
I got the black box, but I kind of like flipped it for.
Okay, I can't knock it, man. Can't knock it. The speculation on that collection was pretty huge, man, for sure.
Yeah, and he's working. I even have his like I'm such a big fan. I even have his his book. I even have his graphic novel Joyama.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like I'm not advertising, but I'm just like showing I'm a big fan.
Nice.
I hope maybe he sees this and follow me.
There you go.
So I remember there's this commission piece that I did that I also like. I just opened his works and I started like bringing it's on my Instagram, and I just picked out elements from it to just use for my work. So I always, even like how I learned how to draw was just picking from artists. I remember when I got into manga, I was reading Shonen Jump, Weekly Shonen Jump, this big manga magazine, and I was looking at the works of Tite Kubo, the illustration for Bleach, because I like the way his lines are just clean, simple, and he's able to like get a lot of features on like the faces, the muscles with just his simple, clean lines. Nice. And back in high school, I just used to like draw Ichigo and all these other characters, and that's how I learned. Like I switched to like manga style of drawing. And then I remember I used to have a hard time. A lot of artists have this hard time of drawing fingers and hands. And I remember stumbling upon this work, this manga by Hiroaki Samura, Blade of the Immortal. And I loved like the concept of it, and I loved the way he drew fingers and hands. And I used to like practice that, and that's how I got into it. I remember even when I started drawing in the first place, I used to read Spawn by Todd McFarlane. Nice. Spawn, Youngblood, and like I said, I'm a big image comic book fan. And nice. Look, I think I'm a big fan of them because they were the first company to be creator owned, because if you know comic book history was DC, Marvel, and like no creator could own the rights to their characters until they moved. Jim Lee, they all moved and created Image Comics.
Nice.
And I think that was what so I used to like practice and just draw like from there, and that's how I learned how to draw. Just first drawing the characters and just doing my own thing.
Yeah, but right now I can probably see some Spawn influences there. I was just gonna say.
Yeah. So, but right now, like I have like a solid base on how to draw. I just start just doing my own thing, and maybe see how this person did this, then try and incorporate it. Oh, he lights with this, or he adds whites to this, and just add it to my own stuff.
No doubt, no doubt. So you say you're a fan of the big graphic novels, the big comics. So have you thought about your own art kind of going in that direction when it comes to the blockchain? Going back to the original topic I'd mentioned at the top of the show, I just feel like your art is so tailor-made for a graphic novel. It's just so detailed, so, it moves, and it clearly tells a story. And you do often have an actual story in the description, right? But do you see yourself getting into that graphic novel, like actually having dialogue bubbles and that kind of thing in your artwork?
Yeah, definitely. I even minted the one shot I did, because it was digital. It was like physical, then I scanned all the pages, then I added the word bubbles digitally. And I still have the files, but I remember when Manifold was like, oh, you have to like mint something to like save your royalties, when the royalties were actually being respected.
Right.
And the thing I minted was actually the first 10 pages of the one shot I did. And that's something I can see being possible. You can even, because I see it being done on Tez. There's this weekly zine that I collect on Tez for just one Tez.
Nice.
And you can read it on the blockchain. And I feel like it could be done in Ethereum, where if you're a holder, I think people have already done it and know that there's this punks coming. Yeah, people have done it, but we've not seen it as something where you can drop like a weekly issue or a monthly issue and people will be able to collect. And I feel like that can be done. There are just like a lot of, now that Manifold has brought like the editions and stuff, it can be easily done. It can be easily done. The only thing that is like stopping people are maybe gas prices. I feel like it's only gas prices that are stopping people.
But to your point, it could be done on Tezos, and maybe that would help with that side of things. But I agree with the Ethereum side.
It's been done on Tezos. It's been done on Tezos because I remember seeing this. I think it's called Slot Magazine, and it's just like a weekly. I think it's every month. They just like ask a lot of artists to like drop images and like short comics, and I collect it and can read it on the blockchain, and I can see it as a way, for like comic book companies to also like tap into Web3, because a lot of them are in the space again, and I feel like that's because the bear market, bull market, when the bull market was on, a lot of companies came in, and once they saw, everything go down, they dipped.
Right. So, well, when they came in kind of paying companies to do things for them rather than really trying to understand it, I think, for themselves, right? And that's where, it'll be interesting to see how that goes, because in the end, to your point, it's just another avenue to sell, your novel, your comics. So why not use it? Why not take advantage? And then it does open up a whole new avenue of, actually being able to have that direct contact with your collectors and being able to have benefits hidden, kind of attached to the digital tokens for your collectors. So it's just a whole new kind of gamification angle, right? So you think it's going to be a lucrative thing, a year, 2 years, maybe the next bull market, it's going to be more and more comic books popping up on the blockchain?
If you think about it, the comic book world right now is kind of like how the blockchain, how the NFT space is. We can remember the comic boom, when comic books boomed back in the 90s because of exclusive cover, holographic covers, special issues, this and that. That created the comic book boom back then. And it's the same way how the NFT space is, because they'll be like, oh, we have a new collection, we have this, you can see mutant apes, bored apes, and stuff like that. And I feel like you can bring that back into the blockchain. With Manifold, let's say I do maybe this piece, and I'm like, oh, if you collected this piece, you can burn it to get like the holographic cover issue of this. There are possibilities to do it, and the blockchain will just make it easier for you, because you don't need people's addresses, you don't need people's credit card information, you just need their wallet address, and you can just airdrop that instantly.
Exactly.
I just feel, what's stopping, comic books like coming into the space and stuff like it's because of, the the bad vibe NFT had back in the day. Remember there are a lot of artists that a lot of them are even anonymous because they don't want like their fan base to know they do NFTs because back then people were like NFTs are
That's
bad for the
crazy.
environment, oh, you're spoiling this, it's a scam, it's this and that.
Right.
And that would make it hard for a lot of established artists to come into the space. I mean, I think I made a tweet like, imagine if Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane, came into the space. That would bring, I mean, those are icons. I mean, Jim Lee's an icon, to like Rob Liefeld. They're like, I think even, Rob Liefeld had a drop on, I think, Maker's Place. And it didn't really do good because, there wasn't really that hype for it, So I believe, if a good marketplace teams up with like a good, like an iconic artist, even like Frank Miller, and they just drop like a comic book or something like that, that would maybe be the spark to bring it. And we just have to also like let people know, like, Ethereum has moved to like proof of stake right now. So we are not like burning through,
Right.
electricity.
At least doesn't have the environmental fudge
Yeah,
that it once
yeah,
had. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And Maker's Place is one of those marketplaces that has really kind of actively reached out to, I think, to traditional artists and tried to say, like, come to us, we'll curate. I think they do take a little bit of a bigger chunk than some of the other Web3 art options, but they do that because they put your work in their galleries and they tend to show up at a lot of IRL events. I know they were really busy at Art Basel in Miami back in December, and so they do a lot of those kind of things. Yeah. So that's, I think, their pitch. It's an interesting angle, but obviously, we like to see the Web3 artists empowering themselves as much as possible and not relying on kind of a gallery or a middle kind of group, but to each their own. And Maker's Place definitely has found an interesting kind of niche, and they definitely cater to the higher dollar kind of real fine art, kind of traditional art crowd, you could say. So that's an interesting one for sure. Awesome. Well, I definitely want to say if there's anyone in the chat who has any questions, we'll be winding down soon, so it's your opportunity to get your question in if you have them. Really awesome kind of span of topics that we've covered here, Phil. I appreciate it. I'm wondering, do you have any plans for the metaverse, or do you have galleries in the metaverse right now? Any thoughts towards kind of how things are evolving on that corner of Web3?
The metaverse, I've been in and out, I like, I've seen like different like things that I'd love to do. I think I do have like an on cyber gallery. I just need to update it.
Nice.
There are a lot of things, but I feel there are people that are also like pushing for it because there's this collective group called Making It 24/7. And I remember anytime they do their drops, they also have this metaverse space and people just go in to look at the art. And I feel like I just need to get like a VR headset that will make me appreciate it more because, navigating through a screen doesn't give you that experience.
A little different, yeah.
Once I get, because again, I remember when the NFT boom happened, everybody, the thing that came to everybody's mind was Ready Player One, just going into even though like the tech hasn't like reached that level yet, I feel like it's going to be one of the next big things happen. I mean, we've seen AI, we've seen how AI has moved over the short period of time. Now imagine the AI moving to the metaverse, and people just doing things in the metaverse. That would be so amazing. So I do have, I have things in the works. I'm trying to, like I said, for my Debian Masquerade, it's video game, animation, and comic book, and I do plan on, bringing that into Web3 and the metaverse. So again, I'm just taking it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Don't want to rush the. I'm avoiding burnouts.
No, for
I
sure. It is a
just
lot. It is a
yeah,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, it is a lot. Again, this space, I tell people like a week in Web3 is like a month because 5,000 things can happen at once and you can get overwhelmed. I don't want that because I love this space. You know, I've seen people come and go.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad to see them go. So I don't really want to come with like I know a lot of expectations like, oh yeah, once I'm here, I just want my hard work to be rewarded.
No doubt.
So I know that if I work hard, and I share my work and, be intentional about everything I do, I will reap the rewards in the future. Not, it might be ASAP or it might be slow,
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
just have fun.
You got to
Yeah,
take your
just have
time,
fun.
avoid burnout, make sure you're enjoying yourself, right? All those important things.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's always a lot of angles. And I think the metaverse, it's interesting you mentioned On Cyber. That was definitely the first kind of gallery metaverse that I also was able to create a space in and put up my NFTs. And mine is also now outdated, so I got to update it. I think since then, I would say they were the first to do it really well, as far as like, this is a corner of the metaverse where you can show your NFTs, put your art on the wall, and really just share a link out to people who have no idea what NFTs are, and they can just drop in there and say, hey, you own these pieces. And it was just a cool kind of experience. But since then, we've seen like Spatial come up. Obviously, Crypto Voxels has become more accessible. And Voxels is nice because it works so well on your phone as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see how the metaverse is going. And I think for artists like yourself, with clearly a focus on the illustrations and a lot of the art side of things, it is going to be an interesting kind of avenue to see how it can help, because ultimately there's going to be traffic in the metaverse, right? And you're going to be able to use the metaverse to actually promote your art and promote your next projects as you're building them out. So, but that's down the road. I know these metaverse streets are a little quiet right now.
Yeah, they're a little quiet, but I do like I do really love looking through people's On Cyber. Like once I open a profile and I see an On Cyber, I just go in just to like even meet, like get like a lot of new artists that I've been like connecting with and seeing. We're just like true seeing their works on Cyber. So I do feel like I do encourage people to just go to people's galleries. I respect people that have galleries because you're not just collecting these works to like keep in your wallet, you're showcasing for other people to see and appreciate, and for free,
Exactly.
you're not paying any entry fees for this. So yeah, I do love how the space is.
Awesome. Last question for you. What do you say to, and you mentioned people who have kind of come and gone, and I think there is something to be said about getting kind of discouraged, right? I think people come into the space with really high expectations. They see other people making however much ETH or just making a lot of money, and they think, I'll put my work on there and I'll sell it right away and make a bunch of coin. And as you just mentioned, being patient and actually having fun with it and, seeing it more as a long-term creative journey, I think is probably the more mentally healthy way to look at it. And also just ultimately the more profitable and probably successful way to kind of come at the space, right? So what do you say to the people that, well, on one side are being maybe discouraged, but really more importantly, those who just think NFTs, like you said, are a scam, or they just, are listening to the FUD and seeing that blockchain, what's going to happen? Is it worth getting involved? What do you say to those people, and why should they jump into Web3 and the blockchain?
I would say before you like jump into this, just take your time and study how the space is, know the different things, know the difference between a PFP project and actual art projects, know the difference between generative art, this and that, know like the people in the space. Take as much time as you need to like research, because there are a whole lot of things, a whole lot of concepts, even safety issues. You can get hacked anytime. I've been hacked once, Then don't come in with like, once you drop, you're going to be the next this and that, because even like people that are household names in this space, they started like from the bottom. I mean, X Copy was even giving his art away for free now, and right now you can't get an X copy goes for like, he's been here from like time. So look at the level of work, and patience, people that are making it actually put into, be at the level that they are. And then also come in with originality, because this space is kind of, you see, once there's a trend, especially maybe in the art style, a lot of people go to that art style or that trend, and once it dies down, you be like, okay, what's the next big thing? Just come in with your original idea. A lot of people may not catch up to it at first, but once they see your consistency too, which is another thing, you have to be consistent. They will now see that you're here to build, because I'm here for the long term. I've put a lot of effort and time into this, So just make sure you're consistent, you have good intention. And again, I tell people, have fun with this, because trust me, when you're like all serious, I mean, I'm serious, but when I'm doing this, I'm having fun. Most of the times, my artist friends are just making jokes. I've made a lot of friends through this place. That's why I'm going to New York, just to meet some of them in real life. Just have fun. Just see this as a new way for you to, get your works out there. Make sure you're also taking care of yourself, because again, this space is 5,000 things can happen at once.
Yeah.
So make sure you take care of yourself, take those breaks. And I'll say, yeah, that's just it. Just those things that I mentioned, if you take them to heart, you just follow them, Web3 will be a happy place for you. If you just come in, I see a lot of people, they're like, nah, I can't do this. It's not what I expected. And I tell them, like, I didn't even come here expecting what I've been getting,
Yeah.
But I just kept on doing what I've done, and seeing that work for me, I really appreciate it. I don't expect like my next drop to sell in like 2 minutes, but if
Right.
it does, I appreciate it. I mean, I've had work sitting for months. I mean, the last 2 animated pieces I had, they were up for like 6 months. Yeah, 6 months before I sold them last month.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And just because they didn't sell didn't mean I stopped working. I just kept on doing what I was doing, having fun, new ideas, and that. So just see this as a place for you to just explore different creative outlets, different creative styles, meet new artists, learn about them, know more about yourself. Like right now, I know more about myself as an artist. I know what works for me. I know what I can do. I know the limits, and I know how much work I can put into surpass those limits.
That's
So
amazing.
that's it. Just see this as a new adventure for you to explore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're dropping a lot of gems there. I work with the Dream Conduit DAO as well, and we do a lot of onboarding and also just trying to help educate, creators and artists in this space. And everything you were just saying was just resonating from that perspective, because I was thinking, we have an artathon coming up where we're going to have the topic of conversation is kind of pricing, but also, how you are patient about, the way you price things and the way that you treat limited editions versus, more open editions, or one of ones versus, a little bit more copies. And that might impact your pricing, but also the timing of it. And I think you just really hit the nail on the head there with a lot of different pieces. So I might have to follow up with you and get you to join one of these Dream Conduit rooms so you can help educate, spread that knowledge, because really good points you just touched on there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good you mentioned pricing too, because that's another thing. Like I see people like come in. I'll say the luck is also involved in this, because I won't lie. I've seen people that just came in and put one ETH and it sold for that. I've seen people that are yet to like get one ETH, I would say, but just value the work first.
Right.
You can I know I tell people, like, if you feel like you want to reduce your price, just reduce it, but don't reduce it because somebody asked you to.
Right.
I'll never reduce my price. If that's me, no, I would like, this is the work that I just do that. Then again, I also tell people again, harness the opportunities you see in this space, because it's not only about selling your art. I've done commissions for people for even higher than my floor price just because they saw my work here. I've had opportunities to be on events. I've had opportunities to speak at events just because I'm in this space, and that's been another avenue for me to monetize my work and also get money from this space. So I tell people, like, look for commissions, even art contests. You can see there are jobs here. You can see even projects have spaces for illustrators. You can look out for that. Like, you don't necessarily have to just be, I have, just harness every opportunity you see in this space, because trust me, there are definitely opportunities that people don't know about.
Honestly, that could just be the key line. Web3 equals opportunities. Like, honestly, it's just everything you've mentioned during this conversation outside of those monetizing opportunities, which is amazing. And kudos to you for being able to take on that. But from the IRL events where you're networking, connecting with real people, the different types of skill sets. So you've gone into 3D building, you've gone into animating, you've got into the different blockchains. So, Tezos versus Ethereum. You've even dabbled in AI, which, like you said, is kind of the latest trendy thing, right? But you haven't let it kind of deviate you from your original inspirations and your original kind of artwork and your original collections, right? So really important points there, man. Thank you so much for dropping those gems and sharing that with us. And then most importantly, on the topic of self-care, which we did talk about last week with Dr. Lemney as well. Very important piece. And that's what we're all about, really pushing it forward in a healthy way, not about FOMO, not about going to the moon and making millions of dollars. It's really about the technology is here. It's not going anywhere. This new Web3 economy, this new creator economy is available for you as a creator, as a builder, to take advantage of. And like Phil just said, just open yourself up to opportunities and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? You just learned something new about a new technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to fail when you haven't tried. So just try it and see where it takes you.
That's what's up. That's what's up. All right. With that, I don't think we have any questions from the chat. I appreciate you so much, Phil. I look forward to hopefully connecting in New York at NFT NYC. It is important to connect in real life and make this whole Web3 thing that much more real. So I appreciate you, Phil. Did you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
I'll just say I first want to thank you for the support and everything and having me here. It's really an honor. I really appreciate everyone that's supporting me out there. I see Lost Milk. Shout out to Lost Milk. They've been really supportive for me, and that just keeps me going. Every support, every comment, every tweet, every share just keeps me going, because I know that there are people that are really rooting for me to win, and I want to meet their expectations, and I just want to thank you. When it comes to new drops, I will drop, and I will announce it before I drop. I don't I kind of change. I just want things to be ready. Just ready with me.
Take your time, man. Take your time. No worries.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get some alpha out of you. It's all good. You can keep it to yourself.
But I do have a Foundation World drop with a Chimera DAO, which is this month. Yeah.
Nice.
Then I think my next drop on Super will be, I think, the ending of this month or the beginning of next month.
Very cool.
That's what I'm working on, and doing something for Nouns DAO. I think, but that's later, even way after New York. But I'm working on the piece. So yeah, that's it. Just busy and trying to make things work.
That's amazing, man. I know you're going to be, continuing to climb this crazy Web3 space, and your NFTs, especially those one-of-ones, are going to become even further and further out of reach for me. But hopefully I can snag one maybe at some point. But I just wish you all the best of luck, man. It's really impressive. I love your artwork. I love the direction you're going in. Just keep plugging away, and we'll be watching. And I guess with that, thank you to everybody who tuned in the live stream. I appreciate you, and we will be back next week. And until then, catch you in the metaverse. Peace out.